My name is Anthony Toda, and I live in the city of Jamestown, New York State. I want to address the recent disaster in Florida where the school kids and others were killed by Nicholas Cruz and the negligence of the FBI in regards to this case and many other cases. Now, the negligence lies where a caller reported Nicholas Cruz prior to the shooting and said that he was going to commit a mass crime. He was going to shoot many people. The caller believed that Mr. Cruz was very dangerous and reported that to the FBI. Well, what did the FBI do? After taking that information, absolutely nothing. Now, according to the article, the FBI conducted a database review and couldn't ID Nicholas Cruz. Now, how do you not identify somebody when a caller states the person by name and gives you other information concerning the potential suspect, in this case, the suspect, Nicholas Cruz? That's just a lie from the FBI, and that's just outright negligence, allowing this disaster to happen. The second issue, which was another disaster, was the one that occurred on November 5th, 2017, Texas church shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas, where Devin Patrick Kelly, 26-year-old, another young person, went into a church and killed 26 people after he was arrested for assault and should have never had access to a gun. What happened in that situation? The Air Force never put Mr. Kelly's name into a database which would have prevented him, a federal database, from getting a gun in the first place, which could have prevented this disaster. June 12th, 2016, Omar Martin, 29 years old, another young person, goes into the Pulse Gay Bar in Orlando, Florida, kills 49, injures 53. FBI had them on their watch terrorist list for 10 months prior to the shooting. Also prior to the shooting, the gun shop owner where Mr. Martin went to purchase the gun, attempt to purchase weapons and a bulletproof vest, called the FBI stating that Mr. Martin, although they did not know him by name, was a suspicious character, needed to be investigated by the FBI because Mr. Martin walked into the gun shop prior to the shootings, wanted to buy a flak jacket, wanted to buy ammunition in the amount of thousands of rounds. FBI again notified, aware that he had been on their watch list, didn't bother to go to the store when Mr. Martin had been videotaped. Mr. Martin had been seen by witnesses who could describe him. FBI never bothered to go to the store. This is what then FBI Director Jim Comey said of the FBI after that disaster in the Pulse Bar, that he hasn't seen anything agents should have done differently. So here's a store owner that calls the FBI, has a description of the person, has him on videotape. The FBI does nothing, and we got an FBI director supporting the fact that the FBI was not negligent. What is the purpose of a law enforcement agency? To take information to investigate the possibility of suspicious crimes. Now, we've got a cry in this country by the Democrats to take guns away, to take your Second Amendment away. At the same time, the Democrats under Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, former President Obama, are screaming about gun control. There is absolutely no enforcement by our law enforcement agencies to protect the public. They are sacrificing your children just to take a constitutional amendment away from the American public. They have refused to enforce the law in these cases and others when they were made aware of the possibility and certainly the fact now of terrible, terrible crimes that were about to be committed. Secondly, there's been some problems with actual enforcement that have shown up at the school in Florida here, where not only did the FBI fail to act on a tip, but the officers who arrived at the scene failed to neutralize, shoot, or apprehend the shooter in the school while he was killing children. This needs to be investigated. There's a possibility here that there's been some communication between the FBI and local law enforcement to allow these disasters to occur. Now, it's as plain as a nose on your face. If somebody warned you, especially in a law enforcement agency, and you do nothing, you are responsible for that disaster. This is a classic negligence suit. The FBI was aware of the threat, aware of the problem, did nothing. My advice to the people who are the friends and relatives of these innocent victims, who are all dead now, to sue the FBI, sue the federal government, sue the Air Force for negligence. They have a responsibility in these disasters by failing to act when they were aware of a threat. This is a classic negligence suit. Do something about this in regards to law enforcement. Law enforcement tells you when you see something suspicious to report it. Well, why is that? So the crime doesn't get committed. When the American public begins reporting suspicious people, suspects who are about to commit crimes, and law enforcement does nothing about it, it has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It's just a total lack of enforcement to strike terror in the hearts of Americans. So everybody screams to take your rights away. This has happened in the past, in history, many times, where governments have used fear to take rights away. Again, call a lawyer. Call many lawyers. Your government's responsible for these terrible acts through their own negligence. Sue your government and stop this terrible, terrible inaction and callousness by people in government that you support with your tax-paying dollars. Thank you very much.